The name Harkonnen doesn't exactly scream honor or respect. For generations, it's been tied to disgrace, failure, and exile. The family got kicked to the frozen wasteland of Lenkivel after Griffin's great-grandfather, Abelard Harkonnen, fumbled hard during the Butlerian Jihad. Since then, they've been living in obscurity, their name whispered like an embarrassing family secret. But Griffin Harkonnen wasn't like the rest. He wasn't content to sit around and freeze along with his family's reputation. Griffin was smart, determined, and above all, done with losing. Instead of whining about their exile, he made a plan. Restore the Harkonnen name piece by piece. He'd tackle politics, rebuild their economy, and claw his way back into the Imperium's good graces. Griffin's story is about ambition, family loyalty, and a whole lot of struggle. He worked for every inch of progress, balancing commercial success, political games, and the weight of a family legacy that never seemed to go away. Before we jump in, here's your official spoiler warning. This video dives deep into Sisterhood of Dune, part of Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson's expanded Dune universe. If you're following the Dune Prophecy TV show, don't stress. These events take place somewhere between its flashbacks and main timeline. This video won't spoil the show, but it'll definitely give you some extra context on the Harkonnens and Griffin's fight to fix what his ancestors broke. Life wasn't exactly glamorous for the Harkonnens after their fall from grace. Thanks to Griffin's great-grandfather, Abelard Harkonnen, fumbling during the Butlerian Jihad, the family got booted to Lunkyville, a freezing, desolate backwater of a planet. It was a serious downgrade. Several generations back, the Harkonnens and the butler, Corinos, had been the same family, but now the leaders of the Imperium considered the Harkonnen name an embarrassment and never spoke of it. For most of his ancestors, Lankivel was the end of the story. They spent generations quietly fading into obscurity, forgotten by the Imperium. But not Griffin. Griffin wasn't like the others. He refused to let the Harkonnens stay a joke. Instead of sulking on Lankivel, he decided to take action. His plan? Rebuild the family's name brick by brick. Unlike some of his relatives, Griffin actually worked. He poured himself into studying history, commerce, and politics, knowing that one day he'd represent Lenkivel in the Landsraad. He didn't stop there either. He teamed up with his sister Valya, splitting the workload. Valya found her opportunity to leave and went to be trained among the adept women on Rossack. But she had not departed before having several long conversations with Griffin and reaching an agreement with him about how both of them could best improve the fortunes of the family. While Valya left to train with the sisterhood, Griffin focused on the family business. Lankivel didn't have much, but it did have whale fur, a valuable commodity. Griffin knew that success meant thinking bigger. He expanded their operations, arranging the largest fur whale harvest in Lankivel's history. Griffin had arranged to dispatch hundreds of additional ships to secure the largest single fur whale harvest the planet had ever produced. Then he had brokered a transportation and cargo hauling deal with a low-end shipping company, Celestial Transport, to take Uncle Weller and his wares across the Imperium. Griffin's hard work started to pay off. He wasn't just trying to make money. He was laying the foundation for a Harkonnen comeback. Griffin wasn't just ambitious, he was practical. Everything he did came from a calm, calculated approach. Instead of diving headfirst into chaos, he studied his way forward. Griffin spent years poring over documents on history, commerce, and governance, preparing for the day he'd represent Lenkivel in the Landsraad. The young man worked at the documents like a careful surgeon, dissecting the sections until he understood the labyrinthine nuances of government. This wasn't just busy work, it was strategy. Griffin's methodical planning set him apart from his ancestors, who had let the Harkonnen name rot on Lankivel. Griffin and Valya's relationship wasn't just built on shared ambitions. It went way back to their childhood. The two siblings trained together in combat, with Valya saving Griffin's life once during a near-drowning incident. They trusted each other completely, sharpening their skills as a team. Valya Harkonnen had made up her mind to become a superior fighter so that she could stand strong against threats. She and her dear brother, Griffin, had engaged in traditional boxing, wrestling, and martial arts matches. He was taller and stronger, but she had speed, trickery, and unpredictability, so that she defeated him more often than not, which helped him improve, as she did. This bond wasn't just about survival. It laid the foundation for their loyalty and mutual sacrifice. Neither Griffin nor Valya could have made it on their own, but together, they became a force to be reckoned with. While Griffin focused on rebuilding the family's wealth and reputation, Valya took a different approach. Her path led her to the Sisterhood of Rossack, where she trained to harness mystical and political power. Griffin, on the other hand, kept his feet firmly planted in the practical world, building a foundation through trade and governance. Despite their different methods, Griffin and Valya shared the same goal, restoring the Harkonnen name to its former glory. Just as Griffin started to rebuild the Harkonnen family's fortunes, disaster struck. Griffin's uncle, Weller Harkonnen, was transporting a massive shipment of whale fur when tragedy hit. The space-folding ship carrying both Weller and the valuable cargo disappeared mid-journey, lost to the void of deep space. The commercial space-folding vessel bearing the passenger Weller Harkonnen, along with the entire cargo of whale fur from Lenkivale, had been lost en route to Parmentier. Due to a navigational hazard, all goods and passengers had vanished somewhere in deep space. They were considered unrecoverable. The loss was devastating. Griffin's ambitious plans relied on the profits from that shipment, and without it, the Harkonnen family's finances took a massive hit. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons for more deep dives into the DUNE universe. To make matters worse, Griffin discovered the hard way that the Imperium wasn't built on fairness. Corruption and incompetence plagued every level of government. Even when he knew Celestial Transport had botched the shipping job, fighting them in court was pointless. Griffin let out a bitter sigh of resignation. Although he knew Celestial Transport was cheating them, a legal battle against such a wealthy entity would be like wading chest-deep through a bog in the Lankiville Highlands. To fight them for their incompetence, he would have to dig deeper into the severely weakened treasury, devoting all of his attention to the matter while letting other commercial opportunities fall by the wayside. The matter would drag on for years, and even if House Harkonnen won the case, the final balance sheet would show a loss. Faced with a broken system, Griffin made a decision. If he wanted to protect his family and their future, he couldn't rely on others. He would claim the Harkonnen seat in the Landsraad himself and take charge of their destiny. For years, Griffin focused on rebuilding the Harkonnen name through trade and politics. But Valya had a different idea. She believed the key to restoring their honor wasn't just success, it was vengeance. And her target was clear: Vorian Atreides, the man who betrayed their family centuries ago. "I know where he is now, Griffin," she said from the hollow image. "He met with the Emperor and will be departing again. He lives on a planet called Kepler. I have attached the coordinates to this recording. He has a family there, a happy home." She paused. "I want you to take it all from him." Valya's message wasn't a suggestion. It was a command, backed by the weight of the Harkonnen legacy. Griffin had no choice but to listen. Griffin wasn't just a pawn in Valya's game, though. The mission didn't sit right with him. Killing a man he barely knew, chasing an ancient vendetta, it felt wrong. But the expectations of his family and his sister's unwavering determination left him no way out. Leaving Lankivale behind wasn't easy. Griffin had spent years building stability for his family, and now he had to abandon it all for a revenge mission on a distant world. Duty to his family pulled him one way, but his personal sense of justice pulled him another. The conflict weighed heavy, but Griffin knew what was expected of him. Griffin's search for Vorian Atreides began on Kepler, a quiet planet far from the Imperium's spotlight. The locals spoke highly of Vorian, painting a picture of a man who was nothing like the traitor Griffin had grown up hearing about. Everyone from lowly refueling technicians to the on-duty administrator of spaceport operations was delighted to talk about Vorian Atreides, whose identity had now been exposed. Vorian wasn't just respected, he was celebrated. Stories of his heroism and selflessness were everywhere. Vorian followed the slavers to Portatrin and used his own fortune to buy back the captives. Not just his own family members, but everybody. Then he went to Salusa and forced the Emperor to guarantee our protection. Griffin couldn't believe it. Was this really the same man his family despised? The more Griffin learned, the more uncertain he became. The locals spoke of Vorian as a loving father, a devoted husband, and a protector of Kepler. During a funeral for Vorian's wife, Mariella Atreides, Griffin saw firsthand how much the man meant to his family and community. "Our mother has died. She was much loved. Mariella Atreides." As Bonda Atreides, Vorian's daughter, spoke about her parents, Griffin felt a growing unease. Bonda's words painted Vorian as more than a hero. He was also a man who had endured loss and shown courage in his personal life. Could this be the same man he'd been sent to kill? Valya's version of events suddenly felt one-sided, but Griffin couldn't shake his duty to the Harkonnen name. Just as Griffin's doubts reached their peak, he learned that Vorian had already left Kepler. "My father went off to find more adventures, I suppose. My mother insisted that he go without her, and I'm trying to accept that." Bonda then revealed. He made no secret of it. He went to a place he's never been, the desert world of Arrakis. I'm afraid he won't ever come back. Despite his hesitation, Griffin knew his mission wasn't over. He couldn't go back to Lankiville empty-handed. Though he felt reluctant to remain here where he so obviously didn't belong, he knew from the transport schedules that it would be days before another outbound ship came to Kepler. With his family's expectations weighing on him, Griffin resolved to continue the chase. His journey wasn't over yet. Arrakis wasn't anything like Lankiville. Griffin traded icy seas for scorching deserts, and the change hit hard. The main spaceport city was a mess, dusty, overcrowded, and full of desperation. Considering the amount of wealth and commerce flowing from Arrakis, Griffin Harkonnen was surprised to see that the main spaceport city was little more than a crowded slum. Every window, door, and crack was sealed to prevent dust from getting in. Arrakis had a reputation of sucking away wealth and hope faster than fortune seekers could earn it back from the desert. Even with the brutal conditions, Griffin refused to give up. His mission kept him going, no matter how homesick he felt for Lankyville. When he arrived and saw all the hopeless people who had no chance of getting off-world, Griffin's heart fell as he felt homesick for rustic Lankyville, no matter the hardships of living there, but he refused to abandon his quest, his duty. Finding information about Vorian wasn't easy. Griffin searched the crowded streets, asking questions and paying bribes. Most of the answers were lies from people hoping for a quick payout. Without revealing his own name, in case someone tipped off his prey, Griffin asked vendors on the streets, paying token amounts to anyone who showed interest. Those who gave him information exuberantly were clearly lying, in hopes of a larger bribe. Moving on, he contacted a local investigator, offering payment only if the man produced results. The investigator was not enthusiastic about the arrangement, but said he would look into the matter, as long as it didn't take too much time. Frustrated, Griffin realized he'd have to do most of the work himself. Griffin's efforts eventually led him to a local bar, where he hoped the patrons might offer something useful. Instead, they laughed in his face. One night after sunset, he passed through a moisture-sealed door into a drinking establishment, where filthy, sullen men sat around consuming spice beer. Griffin paid for drinks and asked for information. Over the course of 2 hours, Griffin grew frustrated. By the time he gave up and left the bar, the men were laughing at him. Things went from bad to worse. On his way out of the bar, Griffin was ambushed by a man wielding a knife. Hearing the scuffle of footsteps behind him, he turned to see a shadowy figure approaching. Griffin tensed, placed his left hand on the shield belt controls and his right palm on the hilt of his fighting knife. He watched his adversary for tiny movements, alert for any trick or feint. Griffin didn't hesitate. He fought back, wounding his attacker. The man came closer and drew his long knife. "I'll show you how it feels to die." He laughed and thrust the blade forward like a stinging scorpion. Griffin used his dagger to slice the back of the man's hand. Thick, dark blood spurted from the veins as he recoiled with a yelp. The locals wasted no time dealing with Griffin's wounded attacker. Their justice was swift and brutal. The man yowled in pain. "I'm bleeding to death." Griffin called out, "We need medical attention here." The people crowded around the groaning thug. A knife flashed in a woman's hand. She drove the blade under the man's chin and up into his brain. "He was a thief," she said. "Now we'll take his water." The slow progress of his mission weighed on Griffin. He recorded messages to send home, giving careful instructions for managing the family business, but frustration gnawed at him. Valya's expectations and the burden of the Harkonnen name were constant reminders of why he couldn't give up. Arrakis tested Griffin like nothing else, but he pushed forward, knowing that his family's honor depended on him. Griffin's search for Vorian yielded no real leads, and his frustration grew. He started avoiding the streets of Arrakis City at night, but one evening, a knock at the door changed everything. A furtive signal at his door surprised him, and he wondered who could possibly wish to speak to him, especially this late at night. Hoping it might be someone with useful information, Griffin hesitated but opened the door. Instead, 3 figures in desert garb forced their way inside. Their faces were hidden by scarves and hoods, but their intentions were clear. "We have questions for you," said the person in front, a woman. The voice behind the scarf was raspy and harsh. Before Griffin could react, her companions attacked. He fought back with a strength and speed that surprised them, bruising one, knocking another to the floor. But the fight ended when one of the attackers pressed a needle jet to his neck. Then someone pressed a needle jet against his neck, and the idea of struggling evaporated into blackness. Griffin woke up in captivity, disoriented and surrounded by the raw smells of spice and unwashed bodies. Griffin heaved a deep breath, and the smells that assaulted his nostrils snapped him to awareness like ancient-smelling salts. The air roiled with raw spice fumes and human odors like fermented perspiration and unwashed skin and hair. When he turned toward a familiar voice, his anger boiled over. Griffin turned toward the voice, focused his eyes on the face, and tried to lunge out of his chair. "Vorian Atreides!" The desert dwellers kept Griffin locked up, confident that the unending sands made escape impossible. But Griffin refused to accept defeat. He planned his escape carefully, stealing a pack of supplies and water from his captors. In their culture, water thieves were hated more than murderers. But since the desert men had kidnapped Griffin and might still intend to steal his body's water, he felt justified taking a pack and a full liter-john. Griffin knew the consequences of being caught, but survival left him no choice. The Nabe already plans to cast me out into the desert. Griffin's theft didn't go unnoticed. The desert Nabe decided to settle the matter with a knife fight, one-on-one combat meant to resolve the blood feud once and for all. Griffin prepared to fight Vorian, but as they faced off, something unexpected happened. Vorian showed regret for the events that had led them here, forcing Griffin to confront his own feelings. The fight between Griffin and Vorian was fierce, with both men carrying the weight of their families' legacies. For Griffin, this was his chance to end the Harkonnens' disgrace. For Vorian, it was a bitter reminder of how old wounds never truly healed. Vor knew the burden of family honor all too well. This long-standing feud had already soured the Harkonnens against him for generations, and the nuances of honor added other complexities. Griffin fought with precision and ferocity, his movements sharpened by years of training. But his strikes weren't just about skill, they carried the anger of generations. As he drove Vorian back, he taunted him, weaponizing memories of Vorian's family. "Did I tell you I went to Kepler, your planet? I spoke with your family, your wife Mariella, an old woman. Do you know she is dead?" The words landed like a blade, and Griffin used Vorian's moment of shock to deliver a precise stab to his shoulder. Despite the pain, Vorian fought back, driven by survival and rage. The struggle became increasingly desperate, with Griffin gaining the upper hand. Pinned to the ground, Vorian refused to beg for his life, even as Griffin's blade pressed against his throat. "And will taking my life restore your family honor?" Griffin hesitated. He had trained for this moment, carried the weight of his family's vendetta, and pushed through every doubt to get here. But as he crouched over Vorian, blade in hand, his resolve faltered. This wasn't just about honor, it was about the kind of person he wanted to be. Tears welled in Griffin's eyes as he made his choice. "I choose not to kill you, Atreides. As a matter of honor, you are responsible for what you did to House Harkonnen, but I am responsible for myself." He cast the knife aside and turned to the Nabe and the watching Freeman. With his left foot, he kicked both knives away and faced the Nabe and the muttering Freeman. "The feud is over." Griffin's decision wasn't just about sparing Vorian, it was a statement of his own morality. By refusing to continue the cycle of violence, Griffin proved that he was more than just a pawn of Harkonnen vengeance. Griffin's decision to spare Vorian didn't win him any favors with the Fremen. For them, the theft of water was an unforgivable crime, and their judgment was swift. Both Griffin and Vorian were exiled to a remote station in the desert, left to fend for themselves in the unforgiving sands. The punishment was harsh, but Griffin accepted it. He had made his choice, and now he would face the consequences alongside the man he had once sworn to kill. As the two men prepared for the worst, a rescue craft appeared on the horizon. It seemed like salvation, but Griffin's relief was short-lived. The craft wasn't sent to save them. It was manned by Vorian's old enemies, seeking revenge. The betrayal was brutal and immediate. Hyla's gaze didn't waver from Vor's as she twisted her wrist in an offhand gesture and snapped Griffin's neck, then tossed him aside like an old doll. He sprawled on the sand, twitching. Griffin's journey ended abruptly, his life taken in an instant. The dream of restoring the Harkonnen name died with him, leaving a void that no one else could fill. Vorian, though spared, was left to grapple with Griffin's death. Despite their feud, he recognized the potential in the young Harkonnen and mourned the loss of what could have been. With his perfect memory, he could replay the images of Inari Idaho's brutal sword strike, how the blade sliced smoothly into Griffin's bowed neck and decapitated him. The robot struggled each time he reviewed the images, and most of all, he couldn't comprehend the strange look of calmness on Griffin's face in those final seconds. The beatific acceptance that his life would end. Vorian ensured that Griffin's body was returned to Lankaville with a message of respect, honoring the courage Griffin had shown even in the face of overwhelming odds. Griffin Harkonnen's tragic death was more than just a personal loss. It was a devastating blow to the Harkonnen family's future. Griffin's body was returned to Lankaville, a stark reminder of the cost of vengeance and the fragility of the Harkonnen legacy. His arrival brought shock and grief to his family, especially his father, Virgil Harkonnen. The two fishermen who had delivered the package bowed their heads respectfully. Inside the package was a letter from Vorian Atreides himself, detailing Griffin's final moments with surprising nobility. Distraught and sobbing, Virgil tore the first envelope open. "It's from Vorian Atreides." The letter painted Griffin in a heroic light, portraying him as a man who had died defending Vorian from attackers. Written in a firm script, the letter asserted that her brother had died a hero, trying to defend Vorian against attackers. But not everyone saw the letter as a gesture of respect. Valya Harkonnen was furious. She viewed the message as a deliberate insult from the Atreides, twisting the truth to mock their family. She read the message, knowing it would either be gloating or lies. This Atreides was implying that they were friends. It had to be a lie, a complete lie. Her anger turned into a burning desire for revenge. Griffin's death didn't extinguish the Harkonnen vendetta, it reignited it, with Valia now fully embracing the role of avenger. He killed my brother. Though she didn't know the circumstances of Griffin's death, Valia knew whom to hold responsible. It felt even more personal to her now, and her desire to kill him more just. Adding to the tragedy was the timing of Griffin's death. Among the documents delivered to Lenkiville was an official Lensrad certification confirming that Griffin had passed all requirements to become the planet's representative. Also in the mail delivered by the cargo ship was an ostentatious official document. Griffin Harkonnen had paid the requisite fees and passed all of the required examinations. Griffin had achieved what he set out to do, restoring his family's place in the Landsraad. But it came too late. His death robbed the Harkonnens of their brightest hope, leaving Valia to carry the weight of the family's vendetta. Griffin's passing left a void in the family's leadership and a bitter sense of loss. While his life had been marked by ambition and growth, his death became a symbol of unfulfilled promise and the destructive power of inherited hatred. Again, Vorian Atreides was sticking his thumb in the eyes of the Harkonnens. Griffin's potential to bring dignity back to the Harkonnen name was cut short, leaving the family more divided and embittered than ever. Griffin Harkonnen's story is one of relentless ambition. He refused to let his family's name remain a stain on the Imperium and worked tirelessly to rebuild their honor. From managing Lankiville's economy to training for the Landsraad, Griffin's perseverance defined him. Even in the face of setbacks like Weller Harkonnen's tragic death, he kept pushing forward. Griffin's determination proved that even in exile, greatness was possible. But it came at a cost. Griffin's journey wasn't just about restoring his family's reputation, it was about discovering who he was. The mission to kill Vorian Atreides forced him to confront the complexities of honor and vengeance. At first, Griffin saw Vorian as a villain, but learning about his life and actions on Kepler revealed a more nuanced picture. During their final confrontation, Griffin chose mercy, sparing Vorian's life and breaking the cycle of violence. I choose not to kill you, Atreides. As a matter of honor, you are responsible for what you did to House Harkonnen, but I am responsible for myself. This moment of growth showed that Griffin was capable of rising above generations of hatred, even if it meant going against his family's expectations. Griffin's story is also a struggle between loyalty to his family and his own sense of morality. The Harkonnen vendetta demanded absolute obedience, but Griffin's conscience pushed him to question the validity of that hatred. By sparing Vorian, Griffin proved that he wasn't just a pawn of the Harkonnen legacy. He became his own man, choosing honor over vengeance. Tragically, that choice came too late to save him from his family's expectations or the harsh reality of the Imperium. Griffin's life and death highlight the devastating toll of inherited hatred. While he worked to restore the Harkonnen name, the vendetta against Vorian Atreides consumed him and ultimately led to his downfall. His story serves as a reminder that the weight of legacy can crush even the most ambitious and noble individuals. Griffin Harkonnen's story is a tragic tale of ambition, family loyalty, and moral growth. He dared to challenge the exile and disgrace his family had lived with for generations, working tirelessly to rebuild the Harkonnen name. But his journey wasn't just about power or wealth, it was about honor. Griffin's confrontation with Vorian Atreides revealed the depth of his character. He wasn't just a tool for his family's vendetta, he was a man grappling with the weight of legacy and his own conscience. By choosing mercy, he showed that the Harkonnen name didn't have to be synonymous with hatred and vengeance. Even in death, Griffin's choices shaped the future of House Harkonnen. His death fueled Valia's anger, reigniting the family's vendetta and setting the stage for generations of conflict with the Atreides. But his story also serves as a reminder of what could have been, a Harkonnen leader who chose honor over violence, progress over revenge. Griffin's life may have been cut short, but his story endures as a cautionary tale about the dangers of inherited hatred and the struggle to forge your own path. The Harkonnen name would rise again, but not in the way Griffin envisioned. So, what do you think? Was Griffin a hero, a tragic figure, or just another pawn of the Harkonnen legacy? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more deep dives into the Dune universe. Thanks for watching!